everybody, I'm Kimberly Edwards from cookingwithkimberly.com, and tonight I'm going to show you how to make a cool side dish, something that's a staple in our house that we love so much. One of my favorite things on the planet is mushrooms. I love mushrooms, and just plain old sauteed mushrooms with some butter and some olive oil. What could be nicer? I don't know. Not much. Anyhow, that's what I'm doing. So on the back of my stove here, on my medium heat, I have a large frying pan. I'm just going to put in about a tablespoon of olive oil. If you pour it out and you count to 4, it's about a tablespoon. Just guesstimate, okay? Alright, next things next. I'm going to heat this oil in this frying pan properly. And in the meantime, we're going to slice up my mushrooms. Okay? So I have a couple portobellos. I have some creminis here. And I've got just plain old baby buttons. So you can use whatever kind of mushrooms you want. This just happens to be what I have in my fridge, and that just happens to be what we're going to eat this evening. Got me? Okay. So we're just going to take our nice sharp knife, and we're going to slice our mushrooms, and no big deal. I love portobellos. They are very meaty. They have so much flavor. Yum. They're nice and large, too. Okay? So those are going over here. And then I'm just going to make straight slices. Now you can half them first and then slice them, or you can just slice them whole as I'm doing. I usually go in half. That's why I'm doing them whole today, like that, like whole entire slices. And that's all basically it. We're gonna slice them till they're about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch, half an inch wide. And you're just going to repeat for as many mushrooms as you think. Now, mushrooms are full of water, okay? So when they cook, they reduce in volume such a great deal that you're going to be like, wow, a whole big, huge pan. I thought I had a whole pan of mushrooms, and it ended up being like, you know, 1.5 cups of sauteed mushrooms. So don't fret, don't worry. Just know that ahead of time. Slice up a bunch of mushrooms. You're going to feel like you sliced up way too many. But don't worry, mushrooms disappear quickly. They're delicious on steaks, especially delicious on steaks. These are fabulous with pastas. These are great as side dishes. Now I'm using this as a side dish today for some baked chicken. I did a nice savory chicken rub. And I'm using these as the side dish, as well as some boiled green beans. No big deal. Anyway, that's how we like to eat at our house. And mushrooms are nice and inexpensive. They're fast. They're easy to deal with. You know what I mean? There's only a couple rules or, you know, guidelines to go by when you're using mushrooms. Typically, you don't wash mushrooms. I know it sounds really crazy and weird and whatever, but you don't wash them because it's gonna waterlog them, and then they get all soggy and soppy, and it's grody. So they sell these like little mushroom brushes that you can brush the dirt off, etc. Or you can just use a paper towel and do the same thing. Got me? Okay. Anyway, my pan should be nice and warm now. My oil is nice and dancing. I'm going to heat it up just a little bit more. And we'll be right back when it's all heated up. And then I'm going to throw these in. They're going to be beautiful. All right. Okay, my frying pan is ready. The oil is hot enough. It's dancing, so to speak. And into my frying pan goes my mushrooms. Sizzle, sizzle. You hear the sizzle? That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Now, the other thing about using mushrooms is when you are cooking them and you add salt to them, let me grab a towel. When you add salt to them, they leach out a lot of their water, because that's what salt does. It draws water out of things, okay? So I'm not going to put salt on it right now because I don't want a big, wet, sloppy mess in my pan, okay? Not immediately. I want to, you know, fry them up a bit properly and better than if they're all soaking wet. They won't cook properly. They'll just steam, and that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some sauteedness. You got me? If I'm making up that word, sauteedness tonight. Okay, but even though I'm not using salt, I'm going to put some pepper in. So I'm going to crack some fresh pepper in here with my fabulous Drogeria pepper grinder. Heavy duty stuff right here, baby. You got to get some of that. I also have a whole bunch of salt ones like this. Now, I'm also going to use salt later, but I'm going to use a sea salt with red wine from Drogeria as well, okay? And it's actually purple. Doesn't it look cool? Into my pan is also going to go 1 bay leaf, because that's just the flavor I go for. That's how my mommy does it, and that's how I'm going to do it. All right. Grab yourself a nice spatula. And you're just going to move them around the pan. They're going to soak up that oil relatively quickly. Don't get worried. It's still sitting inside those mushrooms and it's being used. But it's just soaked up, so don't worry about it, okay? It's going to come out. If it looks like it's a little bit dry and you need to add a little bit more oil, go ahead and do so. But instead of adding oil right now, I'm going to add a pat of butter because I love mushrooms with butter. All right, beautiful. Now, at this point, you can start chopping up fresh herbs if you want to. If you want to put fresh basil or you want to put fresh oregano, some savory, some thyme. I'm probably going to chop up just a little bit of fresh parsley, and I'm going to put that in at the end. I don't want to put it in now because my parsley will, you know, kind of get used. It'll go brown and cooked and it kind of lose its flavor and the whole point of it, okay? So put it in right at the end so it's a little bit green still, and you'll achieve what you're trying to attempt. Okay, I'm also going to put in some chili flakes, some red chili flakes. Now I have a Drogeria grinder of chili flakes and it grinds it up beautifully. The tiny, tiny flecks that you get from it are super hot and spicy. I'm actually going to use my big bad ones. They're not bad. The big bad boys, I'm not grinding them up. They're actually less potent than the Drogeria ones. And it's because they're not freshly ground. So I guess if I freshly ground these, it would be a whole different story. But I'm just going to eat them whole. I kind of like them like this too. Tonight we're going with a different feel. So that went in, and I'm just going to stir them until they're like, you know, tender. Okay? At the end, you're going to season quickly with a little bit of salt. Don't forget that your butter has a little bit of salt in it if you're using salted butter. Okay? Also, this is where you can get creative too. What you can do is you can add some chicken stock if you want to at the end to get a little more flavor. You can add some red wine if you want to. I usually like to use a port or a sherry. You can also use balsamic vinegar to put in there and reduce down and make a gorgeous little sauce that goes along with it, but you don't have to do any of that stuff. You can just, you know, butter and that's it. Also, you may put onions in there. You might want to saute up some onions and garlic prior to putting your mushrooms in. And that's all there is to sauteing mushrooms, really. I'm going to keep doing this. I have, you know, equal sizes, pretty much equal sizes as best I could in my pan from the different kinds of mushrooms. And they should all be done around the same time. If things look a little bit dry, just to put a tiny, tiny hint of oil, because those mushrooms will trick you. They soak up that oil and they'll just hold on to it till the least opportune moment, and then it's all greasy and gooey and you're like, ew, that's not what I wanted to do. So be gentle with that oil, and we'll see you in a little while, okay? Okay, so I put about 2 tablespoons of white wine in there, and I let that reduce. I let that get all the stuff off the bottom that's all tasty and yummy. And my mushrooms are nice and soft. I have it turned down right now, and I'm just going to freshly chop some fresh parsley. Okay, it doesn't have to be too fine, just as fine enough that you're comfortable with it, and you'll eat it. This is about a tablespoon after it's chopped. All right, into my frying pan. I'm gonna let that stir up for just a couple of seconds while I re-season it with some salt. It's nice and spicy, the pepper is good. There's just the right amount of liquid, and they're nice, and they just look like they're moist on the outside. They're not sopping wet. All right, and in goes a little bit of my salt. Now, most of my salt is already evaporated, so I have just perfectly seasoned mushrooms now. Gorgeous! They look lovely! All right, so that's how you saute mushrooms. That's it, that's all. Let me try one of these bad boys. Make sure. I love it with butter. These are fabulous with escargot, with seafood. Those are tasty. I'm not mad at that at all. I could have sauteed mushrooms every single night for dinner, and I'm not even lying. I love sauteed mushrooms. I love mushrooms. You too, Mom? Me too. My mom's shaking her head. I'm seeing her in the other room not saying anything, but shaking her head like, yeah. Anyway, mushrooms are always a good hit at our house, and I hope you try making them at home, sauteing them at home. All right, everybody? Follow me on Twitter at Cooking with Kim E with a capital E. I hope you like the fan page. It's facebook.com/cookingwithkimberly. My shows are on youtube.com/cookingwithkimberly and ifood.tv/cookingwithkimberly. And my site is cookingwithkimberly.com. Make sure you come on out, interact with me, let me know what's going down. All right, everybody, be champions in your kitchen and eat deliciously. Bye.
Tell me who you are. Tell me who you're looking at. You do this to yourself.